Coach, before we get started, first of all, it's amazing what you've done so far, and I know a lot of people know who you are, but they don't know much about you still in the Valley. The fact that 8 years ago you were playing football, not pro football, but college football, I think just lets everybody know you're still a young guy. You're 31, and you just turned 31, right?
Yes.
And so what you're doing at your age, you're far ahead of what your peers are doing. Are you surprised that it's all kind of happened so fast? I know you're in the middle of the season, you're locked in week to week on what you're doing in terms of film study, but when you think back to kind of how it's all happened so quickly.
I don't know if since it happens over time, if it's like surprise, but I do have appreciation for the people that have helped get me here. Whether that's, from a career standpoint, to me, like players ultimately are the driving factor for coaches being able to elevate and go on and do other things. Like if I'm not around, great players with the Vikings, if I'm not around great players with the Eagles, and if I'm not around great players here, then, those type of things don't happen. So, and that's honestly, it's not just the players you coach, it's the whole team. Like offense, defense, doesn't matter. Like when it's a collective effort, players and obviously the coaches that have been around, collective effort to win games. When you win and accomplish a team's goals, good things happen to individuals. So, that's the only reason that I've been able to, at a young age, maybe get to spots in my career that takes a little bit longer. So I just got lucky being around really good people and having people that believed in me, other coaches, players that were, all in on becoming better and trying to win games.
Do you think because you played recently that you have a good sense of what makes players tick, this era of players, and so you can relate to some of these guys along with the fact that you're the same age as a lot of these guys?
No, I don't think so, to be honest. I think that's, relating to people is not necessarily the fact that I'm kind of fresh out of playing myself. I definitely never played to the level of these guys, so I can't really relate to, being an NFL player like them. I think relating to people is about relationships and, really actually being invested in them as people and them as players. And I think when you do that, like, it doesn't matter what age you are. Like, I hope I'm able to do that still in, 10, 20 years, because I think that's important for coaching. So I guess my wishful answer is no, it has nothing to do with my age, because I want to be able to do that, as my career goes.
I think back, I still remember, it wasn't long ago, obviously, for me, it may seem like a long time for you, but we don't have the Big Ten anymore at ESPN, but I remember doing 2 Paul Bunyan games. I think one game you had 3 tackles for a loss, another you had 2.5, if that sounds right. And then there was a game before, I think it was against TCU, it was like number 2 in the country. It was a Thursday night game, and we were doing that. I can't remember, you might have been hurt.
I was just coming off of an injury. I don't think I played more than a couple snaps that game, but that was a heartbreaker. That was a tough lot in that game.
And those Wisconsin-Minnesota games are as good as it gets. Probably the most underrated rivalry in college football.
It was a big rivalry. There was a lot of intense hatred there. Yeah.
I just had LSU Florida this past week, and I was talking to Brian Kelly a little bit about the importance of coaching coaches and being around Jonathan Gannon. And you mentioned whether it was Philly or Minnesota, people that helped you. Being coached by other coaches, how do you think that's helped you get to the point where you're doing what you're doing?
Tremendously. Like, I think it's something that we got to continually do as coaches. Myself, coach the other coaches, those coaches coach me. Like, continual growth in the profession. Otherwise, the game's going to pass you by. So, I think that is a huge thing in the off season and during the season. But in the off season, it's so easy to take advantage in a bad way of time because you have more time on your hands. You want to be able to kind of just decompress and become a little bit of a normal human being. But in reality is, if you really want to make strides and compete at the high level in this league, you have to continually go. And that's something that we emphasize around here. It's something that's been emphasized, previously where I've been, of growth and knowledge enhancement. And, all of us coaches really being able to enlighten and advance the whole staff, the whole room, the defensive staff room. How can we all make each other better and really dive in? And I mean, to be honest, I've probably learned more than what I've actually taught, from the staff collectively, which is what it should be. Like, if we can put our knowledge together, the opportunity for growth is so much greater than if it was just a my way or the highway type of way. So, I think that, and also the accountability of, creating a structure to force that growth. And I think JG does a tremendous job with that. Previously where I've been, I thought Nick Sirianni did a really good job with that. Mike Zimmer did a really good job with that. So it's always, stressing people out to take that next step, because when the season comes, you don't necessarily have as much time for that because you're week-to-week opponent. So, like, carving that out, I think, is tremendously helped me, and I hope it's helping all of our coaches on staff.
Well, from a production standpoint, the numbers have been outstanding the last few games. You guys have won 4 straight. I just want to kind of go back to the Washington game. Since then, what's been the biggest difference?
There's never going to be one thing I think that can be like, oh, we started doing this and it all changed. This really starts with JG, and it's something that I feel like we've, as coordinators, position coaches, assistant coaches, have doubled down on, as well as we've stuck with our process of what we're doing with some adaptation in there, because it's never going to be perfect and you have to be able to make changes, but there's never been a wholesale change into schematics, technique, the process of a day-to-day operation in the meeting room, in the walkthroughs, in the practice. And we really, we weren't in a good spot then. I think we had, what were we at after the Washington game? 1-3. And obviously that was a bad loss, and the players never wavered, the coaches never wavered, and we just kept showing up to work. And ultimately it was finally kind of clicked for us. But it's week to week in the NFL, so right now we have to prepare like there's only one game that matters, and this, what can we do on this Monday afternoon, and then it's Tuesday. What do we got to do to get ready for this game? So just continually investing in day to day, be where my feet are. How do we get better this week to win this game?
When you're watching film and you think, first of all, the number of starters, if you look at projected starters going into the year or guys that at some point might start, it feels like it's double digits in terms of guys that have missed at least one game. Jalen Thompson didn't play last week. You guys still give up 6 points. Why do you think the production has not dropped off? It just doesn't seem to matter in terms of, from a production perspective, who's out there for you guys the last 4 games. The defense is in sync. Guys are flying to the football and making plays.
I mean, I think that speaks to the preparation of the players, no matter what their role is. Like, we have a locker room full of pros, and they all prepare like they're a starter no matter what their role is. And what you see is when guys get their opportunity, they're ready for it. And that goes into the position coaches as well. Like, they don't prep one guy harder than the other guy. Like, they are constantly putting extra work in with the starters, the backups, the practice squad. It doesn't matter. Just every day, how can I maximize? The coach's job is to serve the player. So every day, how can I maximize each guy? And each player are they pouring back into how can they maximize themselves? And so, when that's the culture that JG's created, it's I never sweat guys' roles having to change on a week-to-week basis, because I know those guys that are gonna play, whether it's 5 plays or the whole game, I know that they're prepared to go out there and play, and I'll go to battle with those guys all day.
As a coordinator, as a play caller, how have you changed? Does the game slow down for a play caller from looking back to week 1 of 2023 to now? Do you call plays quicker? Do you anticipate down the road, here's what I'm going to call if this happens? Like, how has that evolved for you?
Yeah, you always have to kind of be ahead of it of, while the current play is about to happen, if it goes to this, what am I going to get to? If it goes to this, what am I going to get to? I wouldn't say that anything necessarily has changed there. The one thing I'd say about play calling is players will tell me like, "Oh man, you're dialing it up right now." I'm like, "Yeah, you guys are actually just executing it." Like it's so easy when, we're out there executing, and so much of the work of preparation or really play calling is just a result of preparation. That goes into the players being able to execute it. That goes into what the plan is. We lay out a plan where it is very much of like, this is what we want to do. When it goes to these situations, this is what we want to get to. If we're getting this is what we got to get to. Like, bing, 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 bing. Like, I think every coach on defense could probably just go out there and call it. Because, like, that's the way that we've set it up throughout the week because it makes it easier for me. Now, I do feel like I have to be a little bit of a robot on Friday and Saturday. I'm never really comfortable until probably Saturday with, like, I don't actually look at the call sheet come game day, and you got to have that like wired in. That's why I say like I got to be a robot with that stuff, so that it does happen. It fast. It's reactive. I know exactly what I'm getting to, and I'm not having to think about it. So I think I think play calling is a result of your preparation.
Is it easier to adjust, or maybe this has always been natural for you? If this is based what we've seen on film, this is what I'm anticipating. Oh, we didn't see that on tape. They're doing this. Is it easier? Do you adjust quicker than you did early on last year? Again, is that something where you feel like you're prepared even if it's something you didn't see on tape?
Yeah. I think you always have to go into a game knowing that there's going to be unknowns. It's the known unknowns, that they could at any point give you something that you haven't seen. And that's why I always like to accept that, and it puts my mind at ease. And then from there, you got to take your natural, I hate to say like instincts, just your knowledge and the knowledge of the rest of the staff, and just be cool, calm, and collected and be ready to make those adjustments. I think the most important thing with unscouted looks and making adjustments is just having the right psychological mind state of, because normally you're having to make those adjustments probably when it didn't go great, right? Because if it's something that's like, well, that was unscouted, but it didn't really work, so I'm not too concerned about it. If it's not going great, where does your mind go? Does it go to, oh my God, this is bad result, pass, or oh crap, what if we can't stop this, future, as opposed to if you can just stay in the present and really have the right mindset of, okay, what do we need to do right now to solve this issue? And you let your let your mind dig into your knowledge, and it'll come to you, even if it's not something that was ding, 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 ding wired into your brain, going into that week. You just got to let it naturally kind of happen.
I want to ask you about some of the young guys. Star Thomas, I want to start there because that's somebody that clearly Monty and his group scouted when he came out, and he wasn't drafted and starts out elsewhere, and then the Cardinals bring him in. He's playing great. What have you seen from him? What stood out about his play?
Well, I think the guy, the pro, the preparation is high level. Doesn't look like a second-year guy. Looks like a 12-year guy, to be honest. So true pro. And what that's led to, along with a skill set of really a guy that can roll, Star can run, and he's got natural like cover instincts. It's led to a guy that's continually got better outside, and the job of the corner is to deny the ball. And I would say this year, probably over years past, I've put all those corners in some stressful spots, and they've done a really good job of winning those stressful one-on-ones. That's SMB and that's Max too. So like they're doing a great job, and Star's obviously like the work that he's put in has led him to playing at a high level right now.
Seems like the more that Max Melton plays, the better he gets. I don't know if that's an assessment you agree with, but why do you think he's having as much success right now at this stage of his first year in the league?
Yeah, I mean, I think those reps in practice, but then also those game reps, they're going to make him better. He's got the mindset to play out there. It's not easy to play out there. You're on the highway, right? It's one-on-one with some of the best players in the NFL, right? The receiver position is just filled with talent around the league. And so you're going to constantly go up against really good players. And he's got the mindset that it really doesn't faze him. And he's got the skill set to cover. And so as long as he just keeps honing in his techniques and preparing like he's preparing, those things are going to get better. We were really pleased with what he did mentally today at practice, just taking his game to the next level as far as understanding the why behind everything, understanding how he can affect the quarterback. And he's continuing to grow because he puts in the work.
I'm not surprised at all with Garrett Williams because he went, first of all, to the greatest academic institution in America, Syracuse University, along with being now a football power once again. But how did you guys assess him? How did you know he could make the transition coming out when he barely played that last year because of an injury? And obviously he's adjusting to a position I assume he didn't play a ton of at Syracuse?
No. One is intelligence. He could play any position in the secondary, safety, nickel, corner, like that. Two, I thought coming out, his off man was very good. And, corner is a lot of off man at times. Those distances can change. Sometimes you're pressed on the slot. Sometimes you're in a tight press, or a tight scooch, we would call it, 3 yards off. Sometimes you're a little bit deeper, route 5. And it's those transitions from off, being able to feel the releases of the receivers, being able to tempo their speed, understand the sprays that you're getting. And he had a really good feel for that at corner. So we know that he could probably be able to obviously play corner because he'd shown that, which he can go out there and play corner at any point for us. But it was that skill set, along with being a good tackler, that we knew that he definitely had the ability to play nickel.
Rabbit, Taylor Demerson steps in, plays for you the last game for Jalen Thompson. We know about his speed. What are some of the other aspects of his game that make you confident that he can be out there on defense?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is that he knows how to use his speed. That was one thing I was early on in camp. I was on him about. Is if he didn't trust it, he didn't show that speed. And eventually I was like, dude, you prepare very hard. You know this stuff very well. Like, once you see it, go. And once he started doing that is when you see the speed, and he's willing to, like, whether it's breaking up a pass or going to tackle a ball carrier, like, he doesn't, there's no second guessing. There's no thing that's slowing him down. Like, he pulls a trigger and he goes. That's why he looks like a missile at times. And that's what I loved about his college tape, is he looked like a missile. And so when he plays like that, that he plays at a high level, and then he's doing a great job in the deep zones. Whether that's playing, quarters, cloud, playing the post. I think he's got really good natural feel back there. Can feel the routes, but playing off the quarterback. And then, he's done a good job of improving his slot man stuff. There's a couple reps this year where he's been in there in games, and he's gone against some really good receivers with no help, and he's fearless in there, and he'll cover you in the slot.
What about your defensive line? You've probably had more injuries there than anywhere else on the defense. Anybody in particular that's really stood out to you? Dante Stills is the one that's getting the numbers, and maybe that's him, or is it somebody else?
Yeah, I think that's a collective effort with all those guys. I think that Roy and KT do a phenomenal job at playing their role, which is they play the nose spot, which is kind of it's the ugly spot. They gotta take on a lot of double teams, and they don't necessarily get a lot of the recognition for what they do, but they do a great job of not allowing for any kind of movement or displacement of the line of scrimmage, but also getting forehands on them and keeping people off the backers. And then, the tackles are doing a really good job. That's Dante, that's LJ, that's Naquan, that's Stilly. They've done a really good job in terms of, making plays and winning one-on-one blocks and continuing to get after the quarterback, playing multiple positions, inside 3 technique, 4-eye, 2-eye, and 9 technique. That's a lot of stuff, and that's a kind of a credit to their preparation, being able to be like flexible like that, but also their skill set. And it's the run game, and it's affecting the quarterback, right? That's the job of those D linemen, and I think it's a collective effort right now of everyone doing their job at a high level.
When you were in Philly, you had a lot of success with Hassan Reddick, who, when he was here, played inside linebacker, even though in college he was pass rusher. Zaven Collins has been an inside backer most of his career. I don't even know that he played a rep of outside linebacker at Tulsa. Maybe he did.
Yeah, a little bit. He played a little outside.
And now that's where he's playing, and the numbers aren't gaudy, but you could tell he's around the football.
He's very valuable for us at that spot. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so here's what you need to know about Zaven. Okay, when we played Miami a couple weeks ago, he played middle runner, cover 2, right? He played the linebacker spot where he's got to run the middle. Tyreek up the seam, takes off, covers him, right? This past week, he was in there at 3 technique and had power, ran at him, and took on a double team and fought off 2 guys and got in on the play. Like, no, that's versatility at its finest right there, right? And that's like, those are the extreme ends of the spectrum. Like, what we ask him to do normally in coverage is not as stressful as covering Tyreek up the middle, right? But like that coupled with his ability to play violent and set edges in the run game, his versatility as a rusher. The reason he took on that double team as 3 technique is because he can rush inside, so he was in there to rush. He can rush off the edge. People have to honor him as a rusher because he can win, but that opens up so much for us schematically. So like, he's so versatile and plays such a significant role for this defense, and he's a leader. He's a worker. Like, he's a huge piece of what we do.
Couple more quick ones, we'll get you out of here. At some point here in the near future, Darius Robinson is going to play his first NFL snap. I think all of us that were watching training camp from afar were incredibly impressed, and if you watch him at all in Missouri, you can see why. Why are you excited about him getting out there?
A lot of different reasons, I would say. Skill set, but also I know the energy and violence that he plays with. And that leads to, you combine those 2 things with preparation. He's another one. He's a rookie. Feels like he's probably a 10-year vet the way that he prepares. You combine all those things, like, he's going to go out there and make plays. So that's what I'm excited, when that time comes. I know he's going to go out there and just let it loose and let those plays come.
What about Budda? I know with some guys in pro sports, football, basketball, in a contract year, all of a sudden they're playing better. But Budda doesn't think that way. He's not thinking, oh, it's a contract year, now I'm going to play harder. I mean, Budda plays the same way, whether he's the lowest paid guy in the league or the highest. But it does seem like this year, and maybe it's just being healthier, that he's at a different level. What's standing out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's played at a high level for a long time. I think, collectively, year 2 as a defense, not just Budda, we're probably executing at a higher level. We're probably coaching at a higher level. And as a result, I think his skill set and his violence and motor is really shining. So, like, he's making some unbelievable plays. Coverage, run game, open field tackling, blitzing. Like, he makes plays that really don't look good initially for us, and he finds a way to get the ball down. You love players like that as a coach, right? Because it makes up for a lot of stuff. So he's always been a phenomenal player. He's playing phenomenal right now. And I think just collectively, when we're playing better as a defense, a player of his level really shows.
All right, last one. And I saved this one for a reason. Kyzir White, tell me about your relationship there and the fact that your son will forever remember Kyzir White because his first name is Dominic, middle name Kyzir.
Kyzir, yeah. I think, like, what I'll tell my son is the reason he was named after this guy is, number one is he plays very violent. So, maybe my kid will be a football player, maybe not. But if he plays football, he better play as violent as Kyzir. But it's really the teammate that he is. Like, teammate to coaches and players. Like, he's like the ultimate, to me, model for accountability. He always, even when it's my fault, he wants to take the blame. Like, he always has my back. He's got his coach's back. He's got his players' back. Like, he can, take that, as JG would say, take the arrow on the forehead. He does it better than anyone. I remember a conversation specifically I had with him once where this was back in Philly. I was going to, reduce his role on a certain thing that we were doing that week. And you'd have thought that he would have, been mad at me. But, I mean, it was unbelievable the way that he said, yep, I got to play better in that spot. And so-and-so is playing really good right there. So, yeah, I got to go out there and improve and earn that role back. And it was like, wow, and it's that kind of, player that he is, the teammate that he is, that I want to, tell him, whatever you do in life, like, it's it's never individual. Family plays a huge role. Whatever you do for a career, I'm sure it's not going to be a one man effort, right? There's going to be a team that gets you to where you need to get to in life, and so like you need to be the ultimate teammate like that puts the team first, then yourself, and you will reap the benefits of it still. But that's ultimately why I named my kid after Kyzir.
That's an awesome story, and again, just really cool. You don't see that very often, where a coach is naming his son after a guy that he's currently coaching. Maybe it's somebody. I mean, there are plenty of kids named Brady or Manning. Not a lot of Kyzirs.
No, not a lot of Kyzirs. That one will stand out, but I definitely like to. I actually named my first kid after Eric Kendricks as well. So my first kid is Kendrick. I didn't tell my wife that till about a couple months ago, so she didn't know that initially. But that's why I was like, yeah, Kendrick, yeah, for sure. I was like, yeah, like Kendrick's perfect. I do like to honor. I mean, it's a privilege for a coach. To me as a coach, it's a privilege to be a part of a player's journey. You're never it's never, look where I got this guy. They get themselves there, and you're a small piece on that journey. But like, you can't forget that like this is the NFL, and like there's greatness to that. Like, I think back at like the players that I was looking up to, like it's pretty cool to think if you were, you coached Dick Buckus, you coached Jack Tatum, like that's cool. Like, I looked up to those guys, Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, like you coached those guys, like you were a part of something that I modeled as a kid, and so it's not to be taken lightly. Like I think it's special to be part of these guys' careers. Everybody's, honestly, like they put so much into it, and I think I just have a high level of respect for that. Because it doesn't last forever, and it's the legacy that they're leaving. So it's special.
Great stuff, man. You've been awesome in this setting. More importantly, you've been awesome on Sundays when
I
it counts. So appreciate the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Dave.